Hello, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another live stream. And oh boy, this is going to be quite something, this one, because I don't know what I'm doing. And as someone has just already perfectly pointed out in the live stream chat, I've changed my team tons and I keep changing it, and I am overthinking massively. To terrible extent. Like, I am overthinking far too much. I need you guys to calm me down and to tell me to stop overthinking. Because, I mean, like, I've just looked at my latest draft. It's only got 2 Brighton in. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm panicking. I'm picking players that I don't want. So, basically, stick around for some great advice. No, don't worry. I will help you out, and I will be able to give some good advice. However, yes, there have been some changes in my team, and there will 500% be changes made in this live stream as well. That isn't to build suspense. It's just there are just so many options. And I know a lot of people at the moment are saying that everyone's team looks the same. And if you're wildcarding this week, you're just wildcarding into a template. But there are some real critical differences. Which Arsenal defender, which Brighton defender or keeper, which Brentford defender, which Brighton midfielder. Do you go for a second Arsenal mid, or do you go for Maddison? Do you go for Watkins, Kane, Tony? Which Newcastle defender do you go for? Do you drop all of your Manchester United assets? Do you maybe just keep Rashford, or do you have Shaw? I know the general structure is roughly the same, but there are some really critical differences. And when you stack that up, for example, I was looking at someone on Twitter earlier. They were going for like McAllister, Gabriel, and Sanchez, for example. That's 3 players immediately that are completely different to mine. Yes, they're covering the same teams, but I actually don't think our teams are going to all be exactly the same. There will be teams that are very similar, but there are also some subtle differences as well. So, yeah. I'm going to show you my team in a second, but do say hello. Let me know where you're tuning in from. Let me know what you're doing right now. And if you are excited for the stream, I know it's nice and early to ask this, but please do drop a like on the stream. The more people that like a stream, the YouTube algorithm pushes it out to more people because it thinks that people are enjoying the stream. So even if you're not enjoying the stream, please drop a like. Oh, God. Honestly, guys, I've changed my team so much over the last 24 hours. There have been players coming in and out. The Brighton mids in particular, and then that final midfield slot has been tricky for me. Hello, mate. Missed your bald head. Glad to hear it. You beautiful bald creature. You never disappoint. Thank you, Gal. Show team. Everyone's saying show team, show team. I will show the team. Don't you worry. Clive says, hi, Ross. I'm wildcard 28. I haven't even considered a wildcard 28. It could work for sure. Claudette in the chat. Good to see you, Claudette. I've got no Rashford. I wouldn't do that. I think he's going to absolutely tear Liverpool apart, to be honest. I gave my wife the option between Matoma and March. She picked Matoma, so I agreed too. Listen, the wife's never wrong, and that's something that everyone learns over time. So I agree with your wife. Maybe I'll pick Matoma. We'll see. Right. Do you know what? We're going to waste no time. I'm going to hide the chat very briefly for 2 seconds while I show my team, because I'm going to get distracted. And a lot of people are going to hate this, and it could change. It could well change. At the moment, here's where I stand. So I'm going to just go through quickly. The goalkeeper situation, I do really like Sanchez and Kepa rotating, because Sanchez and Kepa give you better fixtures. Let me just bring that back up. I'm going to look at the chat, actually. Sanchez and Kepa give you better rotation, and they also give you an extra fixture in GameWeek 28. So I know why people like Sanchez and Kepa. I just think that Sanchez doesn't make enough saves. So I was doing a little bit of research. Let me actually pull up this tweet. Just so that I've got the exact stats to hand. I've tweeted far too much recently. Where is the tweet? Here we go. So my reasoning for Raya ahead of Sanchez, like I said, is that Raya makes more saves, and I feel like Estepinian has a much higher upside than the Brentford defenders. So just saves per season, Sanchez makes 2.14 saves per 90, Raya 4.35. You could say, well, De Zerbi wasn't in charge for the entire season. So what I've also got is the post-World Cup saves per 90. Sanchez makes 1.75 saves per 90. Raya makes 4.5 saves per 90. So I think the Brighton defence is better than the Brentford defence, but it gives me a similar vibe to Ederson. Not quite to that extent with Sanchez, but yes, he might get you a clean sheet, and he might get you the odd haul, but generally speaking, he's not going to get you more than about 6 or 7 points, whereas Raya feels more like a Kepa kind of keeper, where you're going to get 11, 12 points. So that's my reason for the goalkeepers to start with. Hopefully that makes sense. Again, I do like the Sanchez-Kepa rotation. Just for me, the Kepa-Raya rotation makes a little bit more sense. Defensive, I think a Brighton defender, an Arsenal defender, and a Brentford defender makes a lot of sense. I've talked about this to death, to be honest. I've gone for Henry because he's cheap, reliable, and he's got decent expected data over the last 6. Zinchenko, I just think, is the most attacking Arsenal defender. And Estepinian, I do genuinely believe is the best Brentford defender by some distance. A lot of people talking about the fact that in the international break, he plays in Australia only a few days before they are then back for the Game Week 29 game. So there is a small chance that Estepinian misses the first game of Game Week 29. I think I'm willing to take that risk there. And I just think long-term, Estepinian is the one to go for. So that's that. Someone just said, do you think you're overthinking by talking about Raya's saves? Not at all. I think a save point, 3 saves gives you a save point, but it's not just that point. I was having this discussion with someone on Twitter yesterday. It's not just that point. When a team such as Brentford, who don't score tons of goals, when the keeper gets a save point, they're also very, very likely to get bonus points. So with Raya, if he makes 3 saves and gets a save point and a clean sheet, as we've seen with Kepa quite a few times, they're also quite likely to get you bonus points as well. So that's why I like Kepa and Raya, because they're quite good for saves, good for bonus points, and I feel like they have that 10, 11 pointer in them. So that's the defence. I've also got Trippier and Botman on the bench. I do think Fabian Schär is the best Newcastle defender. I just think with Fabian Schär, he wasn't pictured in training, which is the first thing. A lot of people saying that they don't think it's a proper injury because Eddie Howe hasn't spoken about it. It might not even be an injury. He might have just been resting or doing an interview or something. But Fabian Schär wasn't pictured in training. And he is also 0.6 million, I believe, more than Botman, or 0.5 million. It's just, for me, it's not worth that extra money. And it's a similar situation with Ben Mee instead of Henry. I just don't see the value in spending all that extra money on them when there's not that much of a difference between them in the stats. So that's the defense and the keepers. Hopefully that makes sense. I will talk about this again throughout the stream. I'm just trying to rattle off why I'm picking the players that I've picked. I'm then going to move on to the forwards quickly, and then I'll go to the midfield because it's the most interesting part of the team, I think. The forwards, Kane, Tony, Haaland, they just make sense. Tony's got the double in 27 and 29, and he plays in 28. Yes, he is on 8 yellow cards. Yes, there is that betting suspension hanging over him, but we play what's in front of us. At the moment, he's got a double in 27. I think you've got to pick Tony, really. Haaland, I think the value in Haaland... Right, so let's just bring up his fixture. I think the value in selling Haaland is in Game Week 28. So in Game Week 26, he's got Newcastle and then Palace in 27. I think those are 2 decent fixtures for Haaland. But he then blanks in 28 and he only plays against Liverpool in 29, which isn't a bad fixture, but he doesn't double. If you bring in Watkins or Iheanacho in Game Week 28, you get 3 fixtures for Haaland's 1 fixture. If you bring in Watkins has Bournemouth at home in Game Week 28, plus an okay double against Chelsea and Leicester in Game Week 29. So my current plan is to sell Haaland in Game Week 28, not to sell Haaland now. I just don't see why you would sell him now. I know it saves you a transfer rather than having to then sell him for Watkins in 28. I would feel fairly comfortable that Haaland outscores Watkins by more than 4 points across the next 2, and then I make that move in 28. So that's why I'm keeping Haaland. And then Kane's fairly obvious. He's just got really good fixtures. The only downside to Kane is that he doesn't double in 29, but Wolves, Forest, Southampton, Everton, Brighton, Bournemouth across the next 6. I would argue that Spurs have probably the best fixtures considering they don't have a double from all of the other teams. So I really like Kane, and I will be bench boosting with Harry Kane on my bench in Game Week 29. So, yeah, Kane's good. So, where we then fall is the midfield. And it's 3 spots in my midfield that have been changing tons. So the 2 that are nailed in my midfield that I'm not going to be removing are Rashford and Saka. And then the 3 that have been changing constantly are Maddison, Martinelli, and Matoma. I'm going to talk about the Brighton mids in more detail at the moment. I don't think that Matoma is the best midfielder for Brighton. So I will say that now. I'll caveat that now, and I'll explain why in a second. I do not think that Matoma is the best midfielder for Brighton. The reason that I've got Matoma and not March or McAllister is because I brought in Matoma last night before his price rise, and he's actually risen in price. So if I start off with only one Brighton midfielder, and I don't need to play them this week, I would rather start off with a player that I've already got money tied up in, and then bring in one of the other ones, which I'll discuss in a second, next week. So at the idea, At the moment, I've only got 2 Brighton players. I don't have a third Brighton asset. The plan would be to do Martinelli to March, probably, or McAllister, next week. I would have another week to assess that. Is McAllister still playing the 10 role? How does Solly March look? And then next week, do Martinelli to the Brighton midfielder of my choice alongside Mitoma. The other options that I've got is I just drop one of Martinelli, Maddison for another Brighton midfielder, and then I have Ødegaard as an option as well. So it's pretty much those 3 midfield slots. If I just go to the transfers page, I am looking at the chat, by the way. I will answer your questions in a second, but I feel like these are the things that you're thinking about probably as well anyway. So we might as well discuss this stuff. So these 3 spots here are the ones that I don't know about. But to be honest, I'm probably going to keep Mitoma because I want at least one Brighton midfielder. And like I say, he's already risen in price. So I bought him for 5.3 and he's now up at 5.4. I don't want to lose value by selling him. So I'll probably keep Mitoma. So it's these 2 spots here. Tell me, chat, what do I do? The 5 options are Martinelli, Ødegaard, McAllister, March, and Maddison. I probably am going to rule out McAllister, which I'll discuss in a second when I look at the Brighton mids. So it's probably Martinelli, Ødegaard, Maddison, and March. But I obviously can't choose. I can't choose 2 Brighton midfielders, and I can't choose 2 Arsenal midfielders. So if I go for one Arsenal or one Brighton, that's going to be it. So what do you think, chat? What do you think for those 2 spots? I'm just looking now. Martinelli, March, Ødegaard, March, Maddison and March, Martinelli and March. A lot of people saying March, for obvious reasons. Like I say, if I go for Martinelli in that spot, the idea behind that would be Martinelli would be a 1-week punt. I know it's booking in a transfer, which I don't usually advise, but Martinelli would be a 1-week punt. And then next week in game week 27, I would do Martinelli to March. Right, so Martinelli to March next week. And then Maddison would just stay in my team. The reason I don't mind that so much is because I already have Maddison as a result, I've saved a transfer for 29. Does that make sense? And for 28. So I'm booking in a transfer by having to do Martinelli to March, but I'm saving a transfer by starting with Maddison. So I feel like it balances itself out. Does that make sense? So that's why that's the plan at the moment. But, guys, I could easily change this completely. So I think now that we've gone through my team, the best thing to do for now, I think, will be to talk Brighton midfielders. So I was thinking about the best way to do this because, I'm very stats heavy on my channel. So I was going to just produce a graphic where I delve really deep into the stats for March, McAllister and Mitoma. The issue is that positions can change. McAllister could play the number 10. He could play deep. Mitoma's been playing quite wide. Could he move centrally? So I thought what I would do instead is a pros and cons table for March, McAllister and Mitoma and just talk through them as assets. So here it is. Where is it? This one. Someone just said, no sense, you are losing the double game by not having March. I don't know if I wasn't clear or you just weren't here for that part. It would be March coming in for Martinelli next week. So Martinelli would be a 1-week punt against Bournemouth at home. Because he's probably going to start up top and it's Bournemouth at home. I could see Arsenal putting 3, 4, 5 goals past Bournemouth and I kind of want to be involved in that. So, yes. So what we've got here is essentially some pros and cons for Mitoma. Mitoma's for 5.4 million, by the way, now. Mitoma, March, and McAllister. And also, you've got their touch maps. These touch maps are game week 17 to game week 24. So I think that whilst you can look across the season, obviously there was a big gap between the World Cup and then the restart in the Premier League. So I'm looking post game week 17 here. Obviously, halfway through that, McAllister did, well, not halfway through, more recently, about 3 or 4 games ago, McAllister did switch to the number 10 role, which we'll discuss. So, here we go. We've got, essentially, I think the pros for Mitoma is that he passes the eye test. I've put the best player here. I don't necessarily mean the best technical footballer. I think he's the best attacker. And by that, I mean, if you were to ask me, one of them's cutting in on their strong foot and about to strike the ball, who do I think will score? I would back Mitoma. If I've got a one-on-one, I would back Mitoma. I just feel like he is the most capable attacker. McAllister is obviously an excellent footballer, and I'm not dissing Solly March. I love Solly March. I just think that Mitoma is the best attacker for them. I maintain that, and that's why I think he passes the eye test, and why a lot of people will pick him, because he's so exciting to watch. The other great thing about Mitoma is he is getting into the box a lot and taking a lot of penalty area touches. They're not necessarily central penalty area touches, which we'll discuss in a second, but he is still getting into the box a fair amount, and he has taken his chances well to date. I don't know if he's overperformed or underperformed his expected goal involvement, but generally, whenever I watch Mitoma, it feels like he can score pretty low XG opportunities. So I do like Mitoma as a result. The issues with Mitoma is that he's got the worst expected goal involvement of all of the three midfielders, and he's currently playing quite wide as well. So, the issue that I've got with this, it reminds me of Martinelli. So a few weeks ago, we were saying, firstly, Martinelli was a bit of a rotation risk, but we were also saying that Martinelli was playing very wide and Zinchenko was playing a little bit more of a central role. You've kind of got a similar situation at the moment where Mitoma is drifting very wide, as you can see by his touch map. He's quite wide, and Estepinian is coming more central. But things change very quickly. And I just wonder, if McAllister does drop deep, for example, it could be Mitoma that goes into the 10. And I just feel like when Mitoma is probably their best attacker, I worry that I'm going to say, well, I'll say no to Mitoma because his data's not as good and he's playing quite wide, but all of a sudden he starts to drift more centrally. His data picks up and all of a sudden I regret not having him. So there are pros and cons, as you can imagine, for all of these, but they're the pros and cons for Mitoma. Pros and cons for Solly March. Solly March has the best expected goal involvement of all three midfielders. So if you're a data person, March's data is really, really good. He's got insane levels of creativity. Apologies. He's got insane levels of creativity. So he's got a 0.59 expected assist this season, which is ridiculously good. He's on par with kind of Kevin De Bruyne, which is so, so good. He's going to create opportunities. And as you can see by the touch map, he is on corners for both sides. So he is on set pieces too. Takes a few free kicks, although McAllister takes some as well. There's a lot to like about Solly March, right? He's probably, at the moment, I would argue, my favourite Brighton midfielder. The reason I don't have him in my team is, as we've already discussed, because Mitoma's already gone up in price. And at the moment, I've only got one Brighton midfielder. The issues with Solly March is that he's got the lowest goal threat of the three midfielders. So whilst his expected goal involvement is the best, his goal threat is actually a little bit lower than the other two. And it is arguable that his finishing composure isn't great because he's played defence for a lot of his career and in recent years. So a lot of people say that when he gets the opportunities, he's less likely to convert as well. So I think with March, maybe it feels a bit like Kevin De Bruyne. He's going to create you a ton of chances, but unless the Brighton players finish them, or unless he finishes the few chances he gets, he might frustrate you slightly, I suppose. Moving on to McAllister, this is the analytics pick that all of the analytics guys are choosing, mainly because they are just following FPL review, which says to pick McAllister. But he does have, at the moment, playing in the number 10 role, the best goal threat of the three midfielders. So his expected goals are ridiculously good in the last few weeks when he's been playing that number 10 role. But it's a very small sample size. At the moment, he's hogging the big chances. So a few weeks ago, I can't remember what game it was now. Was it Crystal Palace? I think it was against Palace. McAllister had something like 3 or 4 big chances in that game. So at the moment, McAllister's getting a ton of big chances. Also, he's on penalties. Now, penalties are always a massive, massive boost. I think that any time when there is a 50-50 between players and you can get penalties for them as well, why would you not do that? Because it's just another weapon to their arsenal. And if they do get a penalty and they've had a poor game, they can still come away with like 10, 11 points, especially for a midfielder. So that's massive. So McAllister, there's a lot to like. The issue that I've got with McAllister is that he can possibly be dropped back to central defensive midfield. He could also be dropped to central midfield. So I've seen, and this is only a few, I've not seen a lot of discussion around this. A couple of Brighton fans have said that with Ferguson and Welbeck both fit now, if Welbeck remains fit and Ferguson remains fit, they could at points play like a 2-striker formation, which would basically be March and Mitoma on the wings, Ferguson and Welbeck up top, and McAllister would drop into a more kind of central mid-role. It wouldn't necessarily be a defensive mid-role, but it wouldn't be that number 10 role that we're seeing him play at the moment. As you can see, he's got absolutely terrible expected goal involvement when playing central defensive midfield. We're talking about lower than a 0.3 expected goal involvement. His expected goals this season, non-penalty, when playing kind of that just general defensive role, is about a 0.12. So if McAllister drops deep, you are literally completely reliant on the odd assist or penalties. The other thing is he is underperforming his expected goal involvement. So whilst he's been hogging big chances at the moment, he's not necessarily shown much of an ability to take those chances. But again, it is a small sample size. But I guess I would say it's probably not fair to say that March has got poor finishing and McAllister doesn't, when at the moment, McAllister's not taking his chances either. So hopefully you weren't expecting me to tell you that one is better than the other, because they're three equally good options in my opinion. The thing that puts me off McAllister is that McAllister is the only one where there is a possibility that something could happen that would massively drop his appeal, which is him dropping deep. And the other two don't have that. I know March can play left wing back, right wing back, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen under De Zerbi. The only thing that could happen with Matoma is him moving more central, which would arguably make him an even better option. So the only one of the three that has something that could badly drop his underlying data and his opportunity to get points is McAllister. So at the moment, my two favourite options are March and Matoma. And if I have to back one, I would back Solly March because his data is just much better. So what do you think of that, chat? I mean, and yes, the best argument for Solly March is that it is the month of March, which is always fun, right? So it is the month of March. Pick Solly March. Yep, so Marcus has rightly said as well, Lallana is out for the season, so there is no other viable replacement for McAllister in the current format. So like I said, two possibilities. They could drift Matoma more central, which they did in the Cup, and McAllister dropped deep, but then they've got to find someone to replace Matoma on the left. The other option is they switch the formation up slightly and play Ferguson and Welbeck together, which again, I'm not saying they definitely will. It might never happen, but that's a possibility too. But I would agree. I think that McAllister is more likely to stay in the number 10 than he is to drop deep, but we don't know that. So I'm going to run a poll now to ask you which combination of Brighton mids you're interested in at the moment. Matoma and March, Matoma and McAllister, and then March and McAllister. Is that it? Is there only three options? I think so. I'm wondering now if that is right. Yeah. I think that's the only three possibilities. So please vote on that poll. Matoma and March, March and McAllister, Matoma and McAllister. Let me know what your favoured Brighton trio is. And again, there are almost 5,000 people here, so thank you for being here. If you are enjoying the stream, please make sure to drop a like on the stream. Make sure to subscribe as well. We are on the road to 65,000 subscribers, so I would massively appreciate if you could subscribe. So at the moment, 72% are favouring Matoma and March. So in a minute, I will run a poll. If you can only start one of Matoma and March, who are you starting between Matoma and March? That will be my next question, because that's the difficult one. There are so many decisions this week that are so 50-50. Like I say, which Brighton defender or Sanchez, which Brentford defender, which Arsenal defender, which Brighton midfielder, and then once you pick which Brighton midfielders, which Brighton midfielder to start, do you go for Martinelli, Ødegaard, Maddison? There are so many like subtle differences in the wildcard. It really is tricky. Yeah, Lee makes a really good point, and I did consider this. March is just coming back from a small injury. Is there a chance that March doesn't start? I don't think so. I think if he's fit enough to be in the squad, he starts. But as Lee said here, could he play 60 to 70? Could he get an early sub, especially if Brighton are 1 or 2 up? Probably. So maybe this week is the week to start Matoma if you're struggling to choose between them. And then in the future, I do believe Solly March is a better option. But maybe just because there's not a lot between them, maybe this week you just say, I'm going to start Matoma because there's a slight chance March doesn't play that many minutes. I wouldn't disagree with that as an option. Yeah, I will do a captaincy poll in a second, Tim. Don't worry. We're going to discuss captaincy. I just thought I would get the Brighton mids discussed quite early. So yeah, just in case you can't see that poll, maybe you're just listening to this whilst you're doing different things. At the moment, we've had 2,000 votes almost. 71% Matoma and March, 17% March and McAllister, and then 12% Matoma and McAllister. So at the moment, Matoma and March is definitely the favoured pairing. It is worth noting that I've just presented an argument which would suggest that for me, March and Matoma are the best pairing as well. So maybe there's a bit of bias there from the fact that my viewers are voting on this. Why not bench boost 27? I just prefer the bench boost in 29. You get extra fixtures, and the players that you're bench boosting are much better. Like you're bench boosting the likes of Kane and Saka and Kepa. Like I just think that's a much better combination for me. Anyway. Excellent content, mate. Thank you, Anesh, and thank you for being a member for 17 months. That's absolutely insane. I appreciate you. So then we come back to my team, and at the moment, I've only got one Brighton midfielder, and I'm not even starting him. I don't know. I really do want Maddison. I'll be honest. It's a bit of a gut feel pick. I'm just going to... Any chance to flex and show this off, by the way. If we go back to my Game Week 8 wildcard, bear with me here. I'm sure that there's an easier way to do this, isn't there? I think if you just type in the number there... Yeah, look at that. Change the URL. So it was a Game Week 8 wildcard, but this was Game Week 9. This was the midfield. So I scored 109. This was my best. This is the one that catapulted me into the top 500. I did have Maddison for his 18-pointer, but I also had Foden for his 19-pointer and Bowen for his 14. This is, in my opinion, why it's so critical to nail the midfield. It's not to say that strikers can't get a lot of points. Like you can see here, Haaland got 46 points or 23 times 2 that week. It's just to say the midfielders feel like where the points are. The midfielders have those high ceilings because if they get 2 goals and a clean sheet, they're on 16 points. So, with bonus points, of course. So, I just think that it's just, I don't know. I just feel like the midfield is critical. And I want some high upside midfielders that have the possibility for multiple returns. And when I look at Maddison, Martinelli, Ødegaard, in a single game week, they feel like they have a higher ceiling than the likes of McAllister, Matoma, and March. That's not to say that the Brighton mids can't do anything, but especially against West Ham, I don't see him absolutely blowing West Ham out the water. So I wonder if this week, I just go for one Brighton midfielder, bench the Brighton midfielder, then next week, I can either sell Maddison or Martinelli. If Maddison gets injured, then it'll be Maddison. Otherwise, it'll be Martinelli, to then bring in the second Brighton midfielder for the double game week. Hopefully that makes sense, but it's why at the moment I'm going for this kind of high upside midfield of Maddison, Martinelli, Saka. I feel like it's attacking this week. Matoma on the bench. Then, like I said, I would obviously need to bring in another Brighton midfielder next week. I don't know. We've still got an hour and a half to make these decisions. Plenty of time. Right, let me make sure I get these super chats. Hi, Ross. Currently selling Haaland for João Felix as he has higher predicted points up to Game Week 29. Insane. It would cost 0.2 to reverse it. I don't like that at all, personally. It's not that I dislike João Felix, and it's a good fixture this week. I would always prefer to have Haaland. The only time that I would be happy selling Haaland personally is in Game Week 28. I'd be happy selling Haaland for someone like João Felix, Watkins, or Iheanacho. Because like I said, in 28 and 29, you'll get 3 fixtures for those players versus 1 for Haaland. So I don't mind selling Haaland, but it wouldn't be now for me. It would be in Game Week 28. JK17 has just become a Rap Tier 1 member. Thank you very much, my man. I appreciate you. Or my woman, I guess. Thank you very much for becoming a member. Hi, Ross. I'm wildcarding next week, but want a 1-week punt. If Mahrez is benched today, then is a transfer to Maddison a good punt versus Southampton? You're wildcarding next week, so you want a 1-week punt. I'm not sure I'll do a 1-week punt on Maddison. His minutes are a little bit... I think he could quite easily not start. There's that risk there, but he could also be subbed quite early. I feel like Maddison's more of a long-term play. I would go Martinelli if you've got a spare slot. If you don't have a spare Arsenal slot, then I guess I don't mind Martinelli. I don't mind Maddison. I feel like Martinelli is definitely the 1-week punt, though. Hi, Ross. I think Burn is better than Botman for the Newcastle defence. I've had Botman for a while, and he's very poor for bonus. Keep it up, you legend. I don't disagree that Burn's probably slightly better if he gets the minutes, but at the moment, Matty Target is now back fit. And I think that there is a small chance that Matt Targett does start 1 or 2 games ahead of Burn over the remainder of the season. So if it's a long-term pick, I just feel like Botman's a little bit more safe. If Fabian Schär is injured, which we don't know, he just wasn't pictured in training, then it will probably be Burn that goes centre-back and Targett will start left-back. So it's up to you. I don't mind Burn or Schär. I just feel like Botman's the safest option. It's a bit boring. He doesn't have a massively higher ceiling. But yeah, Dan Burn is big Dan Burn is brilliant. He gets on the end of a lot of crosses and just an exciting player to own, watching that 6'7" man charge forward. Why is Zinchenko over Gabriel? He's just got better data. He's slightly less nailed, but decent for bonus points, and I feel like he's got more of an assist and goal in him. What about Trossard instead of Martinelli? I just think Martinelli's the one to own at the moment. If you're going to go... This is a 1-week punt, remember. Are you wildcarding this week? I am. Chaz says, do you see West Ham scoring? What about Arsenal defence ×2? I think West Ham could easily score. I don't want to go for 2 Arsenal defenders because that's booking in 2 transfers for me on the bench boost. I guess I could... Yeah... That's a point. I see what you're saying. I could go for the 2 Brighton midfielders, go for Gabriel, and then Gabriel to Estepinian next week. It feels like a little bit of a low upside move. The reason I want Martinelli this week is because I feel like he's got more of an upside. And Estepinian is quite attacking. But I like the idea there. I'll think about it. Aki says, is it worth going Raya Ward over Kepa? Is it worth going Raya Ward over Raya Kepa so I can afford upgrading Martinelli and a Brighton mid in the future to Fernandes and Maddison? Yeah, by all means, proof yourself for that. So go forward, look at the transfers you want to make. And if going for Ward over Kepa really improves your team moving forward, then I don't dislike that at all. So yeah, feel free to go for that. I don't have an issue with that at all. Realistically, starting Raya every week is absolutely fine. And then the only time you need Ward is on the bench boost 29. Like, you don't need to rotate keepers. I'm going to have a headache most weeks now with Kepa versus Raya. I just think it makes my bench boost a little bit stronger. And I quite like the idea of being able to change. Like, for example, if Brentford just look really poor, because there is a chance Brentford just look really poor defensively, then I will just not have Raya in goal and I'll just keep Kepa. And equally, if Chelsea look terrible without Thiago Silva and Reece James is out, then maybe I just start Raya every week. I like that possibility of either rotating or just picking the one keeper that I think is good. Gucci says, hi, mate. In a vacuum, which of these would you... In a vacuum? Is that a saying? What does that mean? Which of these would you play for Game Week 26? McAllister and Rashford, McAllister and March, McAllister and Saka. Also, McAllister's in all of them. So you're saying, who would I start? Rashford, March, or Salah? Rashford. Rashford's got... I just think Rashford will do well against Liverpool. But Salah's on penalties, isn't he? And March probably has the best data of the 3 at the moment. I don't know. I would start Rashford, but I'm a biased Manchester United fan. Adastra says, when is the best time to wildcard with no free hit available? Now. I've had a lot of questions around this. There was genuinely 10 or 12 in my video. I tried explaining this. You don't need to there's no time that you need to free hit now, I don't think. So if you wildcard now, all you need to be careful of is in Game Week 32. Where's Ben Credin's schedule? 2 seconds, guys. Here you go. In Game Week 32, Brighton, Chelsea, Man City, and Man United, those 4 teams are almost definitely going to be blanking in Game Week 32. So all you need to be careful of if you're wildcarding now and you've got no free hit is just don't load up on load of assets from those teams. So for me, because I have a free hit, I will have triple Brighton, triple Manchester United, and Haaland at the very least. So I will be going into Game Week 32 with 7 blanking players. So you just need to be careful that you don't load. So I would say still load up on Brighton because they've got 2 doubles coming up and they've got 5 doubles across the season. But maybe don't overly load up on Man United. Maybe don't go for Bruno and Shaw in Game Week 29. So maybe just hold your triple Brighton, keep Haaland, and then you just have to sell probably one of those Brighton assets in Game Week 32. The other thing is just keepers as well. If you go for Kepa and Sanchez as your rotation, they will probably both blank in Game Week 32. So it makes sense probably to go for Raya if you don't have your free hit. Hopefully that makes sense. I've seen a lot of questions around that. I don't think it's a massive issue not having a free hit anymore. Is there no Bruno in your double game week 29 with the current squad? There will be Bruno, but I would be selling Saka. I'll go through that in a second. But yeah, I would have Bruno. I'm wildcarding was thinking Raya and Sanchez. Why aren't people going for Sanchez? The reason people aren't going for Sanchez and Raya is unless you are bench boosting in 27, you will only have 5 double game week players for game week 27. So it leaves you a little bit. It leaves you a little bit weaker. It's not a massive issue, but it feels like you're not maximizing the double in 27. And then if you are bench boosting in 27, then I suppose there's less issue with going for Sanchez and Raya. So you need to decide when you're bench boosting. You might not be bench boosting at all. It may well be that you don't bench boost or you've used a bench boost and then there's nothing to consider there. But I still think that even if you haven't bench boosted, or even if you don't have the bench boost, I should say, it doesn't make sense to go for 2 double game week keepers in 27. I feel like you either choose Raya or Sanchez and then pair them with another keeper. Why are you playing Henry ahead of Matoma? Because you can't play 2 defenders in FPL. If I can't put Matoma in for Henry, you have to have at least 3 defenders in FPL. So let's have a quick look then. If I come over here. So this was the way that the team was set up. I can show you that the way that the team was set up. This was pretty much, I think this is the exact team that I showed you in my team selection video, bar Matoma in for McAllister. But now I'm thinking, actually, it would be Martinelli and Maddison. As you can see, I've been changing these positions around constantly, so I don't know which way I'll end up. So this would be the team in game week 26. Let me just make sure I've got the chat while I'm doing this. Right, so this is the team in game week 26. If we go ahead to game week 27, in this week, I would bench Maddison probably, and then I would have the option, if I wanted to, of Martinelli to March or McAllister. So next week, it would be the one transfer. March, I would have Raya, Henry, Tony, March, Matoma, Estepinian. Right, so teams looking relatively good there. Yes, I would be having to use a transfer in game week 27. It's not ideal, but it's not a huge issue. It would allow me to obviously have Martinelli against Bournemouth. Then if I skip ahead to game week 28, I'm now in a position where I've already got Maddison in place, and I currently have, well, I would have Haaland in here, but I've already made the transfer. Let me put him back just so that you can see. So without making any transfers for 28, I would have 9 players. So it would be my triple Brighton on the bench, and it would be Rashford and Haaland in the starting 11. I would also be starting Kepa. The plan this week, as you saw there, is either Haaland to Watkins, Iheanacho, or Felix, whoever I fancy at that point. I'm going to say Watkins for the moment just because he's got the best game week 28 fixture. I would just use the one transfer in game week 28, and that would put me in a position for where I have 7.5 million in the bank and 10 players in blank game week 28. Then when I move ahead to game week 29, I would probably be taking at least a -4 hit. And the 2 transfers that you can see is I've taken out Zinchenko and I've taken out... Who was that? I think I've taken out... But I wouldn't do that. I've taken out March there, but it would be March in, and it would be probably for Saka. Now, I know a lot of people aren't going to like this, but hear me out as to why I would do this. It would be Zinchenko for sure and Saka for Fernandes. Right? And I would probably just bench Botman. So that would be the team going into double game week 29 bench boost. So my bench boost would be Raya, Kane, Botman, and Henry. Not the best 3 defensive options there, but 6 fixtures between them. And then Kane is the only single game week player. And I would have a full 11 doublers in the starting 11. So 14 double game week players. I obviously don't have Haaland and Saka at this point, which I know a lot of people won't like. But I will show you what the plan is. Let me just make sure I've not missed too many super chats. I've missed one. Why is everyone wildcarding 26 rather than 27? Because our teams don't look great for this week, and there wouldn't be that many changes. There might just be like one less Arsenal asset and a slight subtle change to your bench or something like that. But largely, it will be the same. This website is fpl.team, by the way. Just type in fpl.team. So that's game week 29. That would be the team. Into game week 30, The plan would then be to bring in, as you can see here, Haaland back in for Tony. Right, so Haaland back in for Tony. I've got Maddison against Bournemouth, which is really nice. I would have Solly March against Tottenham, so that's something I need to think about if I want to maybe make another transfer there, but I don't think it's required. Now, I know a lot of people say, well, I've got no Arsenal. Arsenal play against Liverpool this week. If it's the Liverpool that we've seen recently, then that is a good fixture. But if we see a slight improvement in Liverpool, maybe it's not completely necessary that week. And then going into game week 31, I would probably want to start thinking about getting Liverpool assets, Arsenal assets back in. So maybe this is the week that I can do Maddison back to Saka if I want to. And then all of a sudden, I can bring Saka in, and then the team's starting to look a little bit better. So that's currently where I'm at with it. I don't think it's worth going beyond that, and then I would free hit in game week 32. So at the moment, I'm planning 6 double game week players in 27, 10 single game week players in game week 28, and then it would be 14 double game week players in game week 29 for a -4 hit. So that's the plan. That plan works well until someone gets injured. Absolutely. Absolutely, I agree. I'm not going to disagree with that. Injuries throw a spanner in the works, but you deal with them. For example, if in game week 29, I actually don't... So let's say I get like 1 or 2 injuries, and as a result, I have to keep Saka, or I have to keep... I don't know, who is the other option? I have to keep Zinchenko in my team and bench boost with Zinchenko and Saka. It's not a massive issue. Like, my entire team, even without making those transfers for 29, looks really strong. I wouldn't have an issue with a bench boost of Kane, Saka, and Zinchenko, for example. So, yes, injuries could cause it to not be the optimal perfect team each week, but unless I get kind of 4, 5, 6 injuries, I don't think it will massively change the plan, and I don't think the team will be too weak. But yeah, I agree 100% that the injuries can throw a spanner in the works for sure. Why Henry over me? 0.5 million in the bank. That's it. I just don't think me is worth that extra 0.5 over Henry. Money, I know at the moment it doesn't seem like you need all of your budget, and we don't need all of our budget at the moment, but I think that at some point you will, and at some point you will regret, unless me goes absolutely crazy and gets 2 or 3 goals and Henry gets nothing, you will regret spending the extra 0.5 on me, especially when you won't start them every single week. So for now, I'm going to Henry for that reason. Alan says, I think you are worth the £0.5 million more, Ross. Thanks, Alan. There are some great me jokes. Me doesn't have a much higher goal threat. Well, he does have a much higher goal threat, but when Henry's also got a much higher assist threat, so Henry could get you an assist. Expected goal involvement wise, they're very, very similar. Why not Pinnock? I've just seen a couple of people, not all, some Brentford fans think that Pinnock is 100% nailed. I've seen a couple of people suggest that when Janssen is back, and he is pretty much back now, that Janssen could take a few minutes off of Pinnock. So I would just worry slightly there. But yeah, I like Pinnock as well. Double Brighton midfield and Rashford on the bench. Yeah, I've seen a few people start their double Brighton midfield and bench Rashford. I wouldn't be benching Rashford against Liverpool. I'm not a massive fan of that. Yeah, a lot of people saying that they don't like that I'm booking in a transfer. I'm not usually a fan of it, but the team's very well set up for the next few weeks that if I have to keep Martinelli, I have to keep Martinelli. If I don't get the second Brighton mid, it's not the end of the world. Like, if I get a couple of injuries or something happens, the team is well set up enough. Like, again, if I switch back to game week 27 quickly. This is the team in 27, right? Let's say I can't do March. Let's say I can't do Martinelli to March because someone else gets injured. I've got Zinchenko on the bench against Fulham. I've got Maddison against Chelsea, which isn't a terrible fixture, and Botman against Wolves. So even if I get 3 injuries and I don't want to change any of them, I've got 3 very, very good subs as well. Going into 28, of course, my team is in a position where I need all of my players to start. it would be very unlucky to pick up loads of injuries in 27 and going into 28 as well. But in a similar way, I've still got 8 or 9 players as a minimum, which I think is fine. I don't mind booking in a couple of transfers or booking in a rough idea. Again, I'm not booking them in as if like they have to happen. If I can't get these players, I can't get them. Realistically, my team's very, very similar to everyone else's. All I would need to do is make 2 transfers, and all of a sudden everyone says that my team is so template and boring, right? If I just do Martinelli to Ødegaard and Maddison to March, there you go. There's the template, right? So it's not far off it. And I may well end up on this. I just like the idea of Martinelli and Maddison. I feel like Martinelli and Maddison have a higher ceiling than Ødegaard and March. Although, I don't know why I'm saying that, because when you look at points in recent weeks, or at this season, there was this little spell here for Ødegaard, 16, 11, 13. And then March, you could see this little spell here. 19, 11, 13, 10. So like March has a haul in him as well. I suppose Ødegaard and March are more creative. Martinelli and Maddison have more goal threat. So I guess that's kind of where I'm leaning there. Right, I'll run. A lot of people are asking about captaincy, so I will run a captaincy poll. Ross, what is your free hit plan? My free hit plan is free hit in Game Week 32. Emerson Royale or Chilwell? I'd probably go Emerson, but I don't overly like either of them. Unless you're bench boosting in 29, in which case I'd probably go Chilwell. But I still think they could both be rotated. What are your thoughts on going no Haaland on the wild card? As I said, I don't hate it, but for me, I would rather go no Haaland from Game Week 28 onwards. So I would rather do Haaland to Watkins, Iheanacho, or Felix in Game Week 28 rather than doing it now. What other game week would you use a wildcard if not in 26 or 27? 29 would be the week I would do it. And if you don't need it for 29, I guess you could save it for 30 or 33. So it would be 29, 30 or 33, but I don't like any of them particularly, which is why I'm playing it this week. Morning. Is Maddison for the long term? I want him for this game week, but he's flagged. He was out due to illness, but he's been in training. So the fact that he's been training and it was only illness, not injury, as far as we know, I think Maddison should be fine to start. But of course, if he's a bit fatigued, it could be that he starts on the bench. It's a risk. Why no McAllister? Looks like he has better data. Matoma is playing quite wide lately, isn't he? Good question. I've already spoken about it in tons of detail. Run back to the start of the stream if you want me to actually talk about it. But there's the pros and cons. Agard, West Ham, or Konsa, Mings, Luca Dean, or Castagna potentially don't need them to play 28. I think I'd just go Mings, Frosty. I wouldn't go Castagna, although I do love Castagna. Probably Mings is the safer option. Castagna does have some attacking threat. I've just seen a couple of Leicester fans say that Ricardo Pereira could take some minutes off of Castagna, so I would worry there. Right, captaincy poll. Sorry, I said I was going to do that, didn't I? Start a poll. Right, there you go. There's a captaincy poll. Saka, Haaland, and then if you're not on either, let me know in the chat who you are on for captaincy. Is there any early team news about Man City today? I think we might be getting some, but we won't get the entire team. I think it'll probably just be around Haaland and Mahrez, I reckon. Have you thought about 3 Arsenal midfielders this week? It's just booking in a... Yeah, maybe. It's not for me, but I don't hate it at all. I think 2's probably enough. I just think there are other midfielders that I want. I really like Maddison. I think the Brighton mids are good as well. I'm happy going with 2 Arsenal mids and then switching one out in game week 27 for another Brighton mid. Where do you get your stats from? Fantasy Football Hub. There's a link in the description. You get like, I think it's 30% off if you use my link. It's not a sponsored video. It's an affiliate link. So where is it? I can show you. So this is their Opta stats page. This is where I'll do it. So you can adjust the sample here. So you can go like post World Cup game week 17. And then you've got all of the data there. So if we want to look at just the Brighton midfielders, we can just select like March, Matoma, and where's McAllister? And then you can just go on like show only selected players. So then you can just look at all of the underlying data per 90 for those. So we sort it by expected goal involvement. You can see March is on 1 expected goal involvement. I think it's about 0.98. McAllister 0.7, and then Matoma 0.5. So as you can see, the greatest overall stats is March. But then if we sort it by expected goals, McAllister, Matoma, March. So March is actually third for expected goals. There's a lot of different things you can look at here. There's a lot of different nuances. But yeah, it's Fantasy Football Hub. Like I said, there's a link in my description. I think that all 3 Brighton mids are good, to be fair. This decision is going to kill me. It's going to kill me. Martinelli or Ødegaard. And then Maddison, March. I need to pick 2 of those 4 players. Chat, which 2 of those 4? Do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to... We can run a series of polls. It'll be like a World Cup of polls. Can you bring the fixtures back up? I can do. 2 seconds. Was it this graphic you wanted? Can leave that up for a second if that's helpful for anyone to look at the fixtures. Is it crazy to go without Saka? I'm feeling Ødegaard and Martinelli a little bit more. If you're feeling it, go for it. But I would ask, why are you feeling it? Because Saka's got slightly better data. And he's also on penalties as well. And by slightly better data, again, it's not necessarily expected goal involvement in its entirety. Saka's just a much bigger goal threat. Whereas Ødegaard gets much more creative stuff. It's a bit like March versus McAllister or March versus Matoma, I suppose. Why not Ward and Raya instead of Kepa for cash? I just like the idea of being able to play Kepa in certain weeks. Like this week, I think Brentford will probably concede. I don't know that, but I think there's a good chance they concede. And I like the idea of them being able to play Kepa if I want to. FPL the Max says, morning Ross, smashing it as usual, pal. Thank you, mate. Following a similarish plan to you, but with Mads and Matoma. Plan to then free hit 28, then bench boost 29 with 12 players doubling. Okay, yeah, looks really nice. Yeah, I'm wondering why. Why the free hit in 28? What's the benefit of if I can field 10 good players in 28 without free hitting? Why the free hit in 28? Especially when it only allows you still to get 12 doublers in 29. It's not like that allows you to get 15 doublers in 29. I don't hate it, but I would just ask, like, why is that? Why free hit 28? Is Chilwell worse in a back 4 rotation with who? Yeah, I feel like James and Chilwell are both slightly worse in a back 4. I don't know really. I don't know much about the Chelsea defence, I'll be honest. I've not paid much attention to it. I'm just not that interested. With James and Silva out, I wouldn't go for anyone other than Kepa, just because Kepa can make an insane amount of saves. And if he does get a clean sheet, it's going to be a monster score. So like, if he keeps clean sheet against Leeds, I'd be surprised if it's anything less than 10 or 11 points. I like that. I like that high upside with Kepa. But the rest of the defenders, I'm not so sure. Saka is comfortably winning the captaincy poll. If you've not yet voted on the captaincy poll in the chat, vote on it. 76% of people are captaining Saka, 19% Haaland, 5% other. The others, there was like a few Tonys, there was a few Erdegaards and Martinellis as well. So a lot of people targeting, obviously, that Arsenal versus Bournemouth fixture, which makes sense. What's your opinion about Sanchez, Maddison, and Pinnock instead of Raya, Cher, and Matoma? I've spoken about Sanchez and Raya to death. Sanchez just doesn't make enough saves. Pinnock versus Cher. They're both okay. I'd probably go Pinnock just to save some money and also the double game week. Maddison versus Matoma is a 50-50. Matoma, you get the extra fixture in 27, but you lose the fixture in 28. So Matoma versus Maddison for the next 4 weeks, you get the same amount of fixtures, but you obviously lose one in 27. So you need to think about that. So the other option I've got, if I still want Maddison, but I don't want to book in a transfer, is to do Martinelli. Martinelli didn't rise in price before I sell him like an idiot. No, I didn't. Okay. Martinelli to March. And like I said, just due to the injury doubts, I would probably end up starting Matoma because there's not... I don't think there'll be tons of goals in this game, so it's probably going to be a goal for one of the two. But just the injury doubts makes me think that Matoma's more likely to get 90. March might come off a bit early, or we don't even know if he will start, I suppose. So I could do that. It leaves me with only one Arsenal attacker against Bournemouth, but it also saves me a transfer next week, so I don't have to do Martinelli to March next week. Would you captain Felix over Saka? No, I wouldn't. I don't hate Felix captain, but I wouldn't do that, no. Darwin to Watkins or Nunes to Kane. Okay, Nunes to Watkins or Nunes to Kane. Salah to Maddison, Brighton midfielder for a -4. I think I prefer the latter, Luke. Long term, I prefer the latter. Watkins could outscore Kane in a single week, but longer term, I would always be backing Kane myself. Can you do a Wildcard 26 poll, please? Yeah, I can do one in a second. I think most people are wildcarding this week, though, especially if they're watching my stream. If you're watching a stream where someone's wildcarding, you probably are wildcarding yourself, most people, I would predict. Russell says, good idea to have De Gea with no free hit 32. David Gea, Estepinian, more upside to Sanchez, Shaw. Ferguson for Kane from GameWeek 29. De Gea will blank in 32 as well, Russell. So De Gea doesn't have a fixture either. So I would probably go for someone else. If you're not going to free hit in 32, I would go for someone like Raya. Ferguson for Kane from GameWeek 29. Maddison, Rashford, Saka, Bruno, Matoma. Yeah, looks good. I don't hate that. I would just be careful for free hit 32. If you don't have a free hit for 32, that you've got a keeper that plays. So Raya makes the most sense. Kepa, Sanchez, De Gea are all likely to blank. Emerson Royale instead of Botman until Game Week 29, you rule. It's just booking in another transfer again. And I don't need Botman for any week other than 28. I don't need him for 26. I don't need him for 27. So all that would be... I guess I could play him this week against Wolves instead of Henry. I'm okay, though, going without a Spurs defender. I don't know why people would want the Spurs defence. They're not necessarily fantastic. Emerson Royale has looked good recently, but I'm all right for now. Why Matoma over March McAllister? I've discussed Brighton. I don't want to keep discussing Brighton mids. I think there's nothing between them, to be fair. Just pick the ones that you fancy. Kepa Botman to Pope Gabriel in your current draft. Kepa Botman to Pope Gabriel in your current draft. Could do. I'm losing quite a bit of money there. How much am I losing? 0.7... I'd lose about 1.4 million, and I don't know that it's a massive upgrade, and it loses me a fixture in Game Week 29. So I lose a lot of money and a fixture doing that, so I'm probably not going to do that one. Jesus, I just looked down at the chat and 6 people had asked why have I chosen Maddison. Maddison has decent fixture this week. I don't need him next week when he plays against Chelsea. Good fixture in 28 against Brentford. And then he's got a really nice double in 29. And his data's all right. His data's pretty similar to Ødegaard. There's a small chance as well, that Maddison's on penalties because they don't have Vardy or Tielemans. It's probably going to be Iheanacho that takes the pens for Leicester, but there is a small chance that Maddison steps up and takes it. So, yes. No, Maddison's not a 1 week punt, Jay. What is your plan with him over the next few weeks, assuming trade for Fernandes in 29? No, I would keep Maddison through to game week 31. And if I want Fernandes, it would be selling Saka for Fernandes in 29. Slightly worried with Maddison starting consecutive games in a short span after a long-term injury. Thoughts on Barnes instead? I don't mind Barnes, but they're not necessarily in that short of a span. I think there's a week between 27 and 28. And then there's an international break between 26 and 27. And then between 28 and 29, there's an international break. So I feel like he's not starting that many. It's only in game week 29 in the double game week. But by then, he would have hopefully built up his fitness. Fathers sent me his team. And Cody did outscore Tarkovsky. Yeah, that was always going to be the case, wasn't it? But not by much, to be fair. I think. What do you think? Yeah, team looks good, mate. You've got your triple Arsenal. You got your decent defense. Rashford. It's pretty much the same team as me. It is the same team as me if I do Martinelli. So yeah, not a massive issue with that. Right. Next poll. Saka is the captain. If you're wondering who everyone's going to captain this week, it's going to be Saka by the looks of it. Next poll. Who to start? Matoma or March? So I ran a poll earlier, by the way. If you're wondering why McAllister isn't in this, I ran a poll earlier. Matoma and March won by a landslide as the most popular Brighton midfield double up. So as a result, you're probably only going to start one this week. Who to start, Matoma or March? Estepinan's minutes are a risk. No, international games. They're a slight risk, but I feel like the upside is worth it. Did you say last week that you have a Discord? Yes, I do have a Discord. The link's in the description, or one of our moderators, probably Frosty, will drop our Discord link in the chat for you. So if one of our moderators spams a link in a second, that's the FPL Discord. There's also an F1 section there as well. And I will be doing, at the end of this stream, once the deadline goes, I will be talking about F1 Fantasy, and I will be showing you my F1 Fantasy team. So if you are into F1 and you're excited for the Bahrain Grand Prix, I will be talking about that post-deadline. But yes, our Discord has been linked by Frosty in the chat. There you go. Right, chat. I'll leave that poll for 2 seconds, actually. So at the moment, Matoma 68%, March 32%. So at the moment, everyone's saying to start Matoma. Thoughts on Sanchez and me over Raya and Estepinian, which gives you one more starter for game week 28. Yeah, I've discussed this in quite a lot of detail. I just think that Sanchez and me has a much lower ceiling than Raya and Estepinian. So even with the extra fixture, I still don't prefer Sanchez and me personally. What do you think of starting without Rashford for Ødegaard/Nelly? Ødegaard/Martinelli, extra fixture for 28. So if they outscore him by 2 points, you can even justify a hit in 29. Yes. I guess what that doesn't take into account is money tied up in Rashford. And I've actually got a lot of money. I've owned Rashford since like game week 13 or 14. It's not a lot. How much is it? Let me check, actually. Don't want to lie to you. What do I want to do? Transfers list. My purchase price was 6.7. Yeah, I would lose 0.3 million in Rashi. I don't know. Maybe. I'm not against it. I'm not against it. Thoughts on the camera lagging out in the next 5 minutes? I don't want to jinx it. The camera has never made it more than an hour without lagging out. It's now an hour and 7 minutes since I started streaming and the camera's not gone. Will, Spurs defender instead of 2 Newcastle, Emerson Royale. We've discussed this. I don't need to start my second Newcastle defender apart from game week 28 and in the double. Emerson doesn't have a double in 29. So I just prefer a Newcastle defender. And also Newcastle are a better defence too. And he's cheaper. I've never seen this many polls not be 50-50. Something is off. I know. You guys are actually helping. You're voting in polls and it's not 50-50. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Also, like I said, whilst I'm talking about appreciating, please do subscribe. I would massively appreciate it. We are on the road to 65,000 subscribers. So it's free and it's pretty easy for you to do. You just scroll down and smack that subscribe button. When will you bench boost? I'll be bench boosting in game 29. I wonder if I'm going a bit early on Maddison. So I think out loud, by the way, like this, I obviously wouldn't be speaking in real life, but if I was sat here not streaming and I was tinkering, these are the things I'd be thinking about. Am I going a bit early on Maddo? He's obviously just coming back from illness. He's also been out long term with an injury too. Southampton away isn't a bad fixture. It's actually a pretty good fixture, but how many minutes is he going to get? I'll then bench him in 27, I should say. Do I prefer the fixture? It saves me, I don't know. Oh, there are so many pros and cons to this. I wonder if just over the next couple, it makes more sense to go Martinelli. I do really like the Maddison pick. I'm going to try this on for size for 2 seconds. Just see how I feel not having Maddison in the team. I like just looking at the team. And it gives me a bit more of an idea about how happy I would be to go without. Also, just because I've got a little bit of the OCD with it, I like to make sure that my players are lined up in a nicer way. So we're just going to do that so that the Arsenal triple up's in the middle of the screen. I hope you guys appreciate that. I'm just going to try this on for size for 2 seconds. I'm going to run a series of polls in a second to help make these decisions as well. Team looks great. What is your plan in game week 28? Working around the blanks, but keeping your team strong for 29 with as many doubles as possible. Yeah, this team would have 10 players in game week 29, in game week 28 if I sell Haaland, and it will probably have 12 or 13, probably 13 double game week players in game week 29. Sorry, I'm still ill. I've been ill for like 2 weeks now. Right, so I'm going to end that poll now. 67% of people are saying start Matoma, 33% are saying start March. So if you're choosing between Matoma and March, the chat is telling you that Matoma is the one to start. How would you wildcard 2016 change if you already used your bench boost? I would probably go for a cheaper second keeper. So I'd probably just keep Raya as my only keeper and I'd go for like Ward as the second keeper. I don't think the team would change massively. Yeah, it would just, the transfers that I would change are just different in, the transfers would change for game week 29. So in game week 29, I wouldn't be bringing in as many doublers and I'd probably start a couple of my single game week players. So my wildcard wouldn't change, my transfers would. 5,200 watching and only 1,000 likes. That is true. If you are watching and enjoying the stream, please do drop a like. Thank you, Yelena. I appreciate it. You've been a fantastic moderator. Why is everyone starting to call Martinelli Nelly? I'm not a fan. I don't mind some shortened names, but like I don't mind Estu for Estepinian. I'm not a big fan of Nelly. We are not doing Nelly in this chat. We're doing Martinelli. If we want to shorten him to something, we're going to call him Martin. Now, it's going to get confusing with Ødegaard. Let's just call him Martinelli. How about Marty? Yeah, let's call him Marty. No, that's so much worse. That's so much worse. Right. I've missed your super chat. Did I actually? Outrageous. How dare I? What are your thoughts on Navas rotation with Raya? Yeah, I like Navas. I feel like we've all just completely ignored Navas. Forest have been pretty good defensively. By all means, go for Navas. Martin. What a name Martin is, by the way. Martin Ødegaard. The Brazil guy. Yeah, let's just call him the Brazil guy. What was I going to do? I was going to run a series of polls. Sorry, my ADHD kicked in for a second there. A series of polls. The first poll. Who should I pick? Why Henry over me? I prefer Ben Mee, but he's also 0.5 million more. And I'm just not a massive fan of spending money on... There is slightly more goal threat for me, but there's slightly more assist threat with Henry. I just don't see the value personally in going for me above Henry at the moment. If they were a little bit closer in price, I would absolutely consider it. What was I doing? Got the ADHD, guys. I need to focus my attention. Ødegaard, Martinelli, Madison. Right, this is the most important poll you will ever vote in your life. The most important poll you'll ever vote in your life. Who should I pick? Ødegaard, Martinelli, or Madison? I might let you decide, chat. I might actually let the chat decide, because I don't know. Should we try and get some sort of will going? One sec. Will. Yes, we can. One sec. Let me get this sorted. Let me bring this over here. Then if I go Twitter, what happens if I bring you over here? Are you gonna be able to see that? Oh, you can. Excellent. We're gonna do this. Right. Martinelli. Ødegaard. Madison. And March. I need two of these players. So I think we're going to spin the wheel. And let the wheel decide. So the chat don't like Madison at the moment. 45% on Martinelli, 36% on Ødegaard, and 19% on Madison. So the chat aren't big Madison fans, sadly, at the moment. Have you seen the Will Game Show? Because I'd appreciate a rendition of the theme tune. I'm not going to do that right now. That would be fun, though, wouldn't it? Right. Oh, why can't I see what I'm doing? Right. Chat. The moment of truth. What do we think the Will's going to do? Obviously, if the Will chooses like Martinelli and Ødegaard, then I can't do that because I can only have one of them. So if it chooses two Arsenal assets, we'll have to change it. Right. Moment of truth. I'm spinning. Oh, it's making a noise. That's exciting. Okay. Ødegaard. Oh, this is the most exciting Will I've ever seen. I hope you can hear that noise coming out. It's exciting. Right. Done. So the first choice is Ødegaard. This tells me two things, by the way. When Ødegaard popped up, I wasn't happy. And this is what I talk about in my book, The Mind Game, which you can click in the description and buy my book. But when you flip a coin or when you do a spin and it lands on something and you have that slightly like disappointed feeling, that probably means you don't want that player. So that tells me that I don't want Martin Ødegaard because I don't... That was a terrible accent. It tells me that I don't want Ødegaard because I was slightly disappointed when his name popped up. There we go. Second spin. There we go, chat. Erdegaard and March are going into my team, apparently, if I'm listening to the will. This is exciting. Should we just carry on just doing a will show here? Don't listen to my advice. Listen to the will. Oh, God. Chat. These streams get weirder every time I stream. Midfield 5 of Saka, Maddison, March, Erdegaard, Rashford. Cool. I like that. This means Maddison, Southampton versus Matoma, West Ham. Playing Erdegaard versus Fulham versus Matoma, Crystal Palace, Leeds. Making that fixture back in game week 27. Never risk a -4. Never a risk of a -4 for Bruno. Yeah, I like the sound of that, Cat. I think that's a really nice midfield 5. You have the option as well to do Erdegaard to Matoma in game week 27 if you want to. Right, chat, we're not stopping there. We're not stopping there. Is there anything else we want to ask the Will? The almighty Will? Let me know. I'm going to ask it about captaincy. I trust the almighty Will. Wheel. Do I say will? Strangely, everyone's saying will. Wheel. Wheel. I must say it strangely with my accent. How do people say it? Wheel. Wheel. No, I'm not saying. I'm saying wheel. Wheel. Wahil. Wahil with a huh. I missed your super chat. Yeah, I'm not surprised. I'm just chatting utter nonsense at the moment. I can't see it. I was too busy spinning the wheel. I feel like I can't say the word now. Wheel. Right, 3. Has my camera started like... How's my camera not lagging, by the way? Regulars of the stream, it's been an hour and 20 minutes and my camera's not lagged out. That tells me that it's just going to like break in a second. 3, 2, 1, spin. Oh dear. Oh dear. That's not good. We'll ignore that. We'll ignore that. Spin again. Spin again. If you don't like the way it spins, just spin it again. Oh yeah. There we go. That's what we wanted. Excellent. Excellent. Captain Saka. Bro can't pronounce wheel. I don't know what you mean. I think I'm pronouncing it fine. Okay, someone wants a 2 out of 3 and then we'll stop. Someone wants the best 2 out of 3. So this is the one, genuinely. If this is on Haaland, then you need to captain Haaland. If it's on Saka, then you captain Saka. This is best 2 out of 3. Right. We'll ignore that. If you don't tell anyone, I won't tell anyone either. If we all agree to just shut up and just not mention it. Would you wildcard with Edison, Trent, Trippier, Gabriel, Rashford, Erdegaard, Saka, Mahrez, Tony, Kane, Haaland? I'd wait until next week. Yeah, your team's fine. You've got a really nice Arsenal triple up. You've got the ideal front 3. Yeah, I would wait until next week, honest. Best of 5. Best of 5, yeah. Best of 7. We'll just keep going. Is there any other questions that we want to ask the Will? the Will. Is there anything else? How do people pronounce that word then? I don't know. No. I don't know. JK, would you do Cody, Gnonto, and Nketiah to Henry, Ferguson, and Tony for a -8? Cody, Gnonto, and Nketiah to Henry, Ferguson, Tony for a -8. I don't know that you need to do Cody to Henry this week, but Gnonto and Nketiah to Ferguson and Tony sounds good, especially if we think Nketiah is going to be out. But yeah, that Cody to Henry move doesn't, unless you need the budget, doesn't probably need to happen this week. Matoma or March. Matoma or March. Okay, Matoma or March is the next one. I'm not gonna use the word. I'm gonna call it the circle. We're gonna spin the circle because you guys are mugging me off when I try and say the word wheel. Oh my god, I'm gonna have to. I'll practice for next week. For next week, this can be a regular segment in the stream. I'm gonna practice how to say the word. Okay. Okay. Good. Don't know why I'm crossing my fingers. Like it matters which one it lands on, but there you go. That music is so satisfying. It's like a little dopamine rush every time I hear that music. Matoma's the one to start. Whale. It's not. You don't pronounce it like whale. Oh, do you know what? I give up. Whale. No one calls it whale. The only thing with less chance of you pronouncing will correctly is me paying an ounce of attention to the will. Oh, God. We heal. Okay, we heal. March or Rashford? What to start? I'd start Rashy. You should always play Trippier. I don't doubt the sentiment, to be honest. I don't doubt the sentiment. Like, probably. I probably will regret benching Trippier. Must have missed it, but where did Maddison go? I'm playing with a few different things here. I wonder if I'm just going a bit early on Maddo. Because I'm not going to play him in 26, right? I'm not going to play him in 27, I should say. Yes, I need him in 26, but I would argue that Matoma and Martinelli are just as good for this week. And then if I want him for 28, I could easily bring him in game week 28 if I want to, or 29. So it's not saying no to Maddison. It's just maybe, I don't know, maybe... Sorry, I'm just listening. Maybe just leaving it for a couple more weeks. There are so many 50-50 decisions this week. Like Matoma or March to start, Martinelli or Erdegaard. Do I have Maddison? Who's captain, Saka or Haaland? There are so many decisions. I'm just kind of blocking them all out at the moment. I do want Maddison, though. I'll be honest. I do want Maddison. Will we get early team news for Man City Newcastle? I think so, yeah. But we probably won't get like the entire teams. It's probably going to be just like one or two pieces of information. Hi, Ross. What are the pros of having Maddison over Martinelli? I can't seem to find any. It saves you a transfer in game week 29 if... It saves you transfer in game week 29 if you want Maddison anyway for the double, because Maddison has a really nice double in game week 29. Where is this one? So Leicester have, obviously, Southampton. You would bench him for Chelsea. They then have Brentford in 28, which is good. And then Crystal Palace and Villa in 29. And then Bournemouth in game week 30. So that set of 2 game weeks and 3 fixtures for Leicester is really nice. Also, Martinelli is still a slight rotation risk. So that's the other reason that you might want to go for Maddo, is that he's less of a rotation risk. But again, he is a bit of an injury doubt, I suppose, or like an illness doubt. Will we all do the will of the wheel? Oh, I just said it differently there. I think I know where I'm going wrong. Of Wales. Yes, Johnny. Absolutely. Now that I've been shaken awaken, am I okay with Pinnock as my Brentford defender? Yeah, Pinnock's fine. I just think he, of the 3, is the most likely to be rotated at some point. But yeah, I think they're all pretty nailed. They're all really good as well. Hey, Ross, why not Castagna over Botman? Leicester are just a bit poor defensively, aren't they? They're just a bit poor defensively. I'm still not convinced. Sorry. Someone wanted to know Raya or Kepa. I'm not making any decisions anymore. I'm just trusting the circle. Why not Mings over Botman? I don't mind Mings. I just think Botman's playing for the better defence, isn't he? There we go. The decision circle. I like it. The decision circle. We're calling it the decision circle from now on. We're calling it the decision circle. How much have you got in the bank? That's a great question. With this current setup, I have 5.1 million in the bank. But obviously, if I go for like Maddison in there instead of March, then I have like, and Ødegaard instead of Martinelli, all of a sudden I have like 2 million in the bank. Really depends what combination I go for. Right, so that poll is in favour of Martinelli. So the final poll for me then, let's say I have Martinelli. Final decision for the team. Before I run this poll, if I go for Maddison instead of March, please listen to this before you vote on the poll. If I go for Maddison instead of March, I would bring in March next week for Martinelli. So I will still have Solly March for the double. It just means that I get Maddison this week. It would also mean benching Matoma. So there you go. March or Maddison is the final decision in my team. I would still have March for 27. It just means that I would have Maddison in place and I would bring in March next week. This route is an extra transfer. But it saves me a transfer, I suppose, in 29 if I want to. What's the logic behind benching March over Matoma? I don't think there's a lot between any of the Brighton mids. The logic being that March is coming off the back of an injury and there's a chance he gets limited minutes. Imagine not getting Maddison in for his 12-point haul versus Southampton. I know, that's how I feel. It is how I feel. I guess if I feel that that's going to happen, then I just go for him instead of Martinelli. If I think that Maddison gets close to Martinelli and it saves me a transfer, I just go for March. I just go for Maddison instead of Martinelli, don't I? How much left in the bank? It's on your screen how much is left in the bank. How do you have 5.1 in the bank? I have the same team and only 2.1. Yeah, my team value was really good earlier in the season, so... I think I want to have March and Matoma. I don't think I want to book in a transfer next week. So it's Martinelli, Ødegaard or Maddison, which is the decision that I've been going back and forth on constantly. I don't think I want Ødegaard. I feel like I'm going to regret that. I feel like the reason that I think I'm going to regret it, if we just go down here, against Bournemouth and Fulham, which are the next two for Arsenal, Ødegaard scored 16 and 10 points. If he gets 26 points in the next 2 weeks, I'd cry after taking him out. Yeah, he got a brace against Bournemouth in game week 3, Ødegaard. How did Martinelli do? Not that this particularly matters. It doesn't mean anything. Excellent. 6 points and 2 points. Just what you want. Did Maddison... I wonder if Maddison played against Southampton. What can that tell me? Maddison got 7 points against Southampton earlier in the season. This doesn't mean anything, to be honest. It's just fun. my belly is hungry. Why are you starting Arrizabalaga over Kepa? I'm so confused. Do you mean why am I starting Kepa over Raya? I just think he's got... I've already got a Brentford defender, and I have a good feeling that Brentford will concede. So... Who is your captain? My captain is Saka. I'm going so back and forth on this decision. It's ridiculous. I thought your transfers in 29 were Shaw and Bruno. They are. Why? What did I say? So would you do Zinchenko and Maddison out for Bruno and Shaw in 29? No, I would do Zinchenko and Saka. I know a lot of people aren't going to want to take Saka out, and I may well not take Saka out, but when I look at Saka, yes, it is Leeds in 29, which isn't a bad fixture at all. Then it's Liverpool away, West Ham away. I would free hit in 32. And then it's Man City away in game week 33, and Chelsea at home, and then Newcastle away. Obviously, Saka's a fantastic player, but I don't think he's going to massively haul in this run of fixtures here. And I can bring him back in at any point. So I don't mind taking him out here for Bruno and holding Bruno through, and then maybe looking to bring Saka back in. My team is similar to yours. However, if I go Kane, then I can't get Bruno for game week 29. If I go Watkins, then I can make the switch. Watkins or Kane. I would... Oh. I'm sure you can get Bruno. You just have to sell players you don't want to. I still think Kane's worth it. Bruno's great, but I don't think Bruno's like essential for game week 29. Have you not considered triple Arsenal midfield? I have. That's a possibility, but I just would rather either have Maddison or just have March in place ready, personally. Selling Nketiah, is it a hit to bring in Ødegaard for Andreas and benching Matoma this week worth it? Basically, do you think Ødegaard will outscore Matoma by more than 4 points? I think the answer is probably no. Maybe. Oh, it's a really tough one. I would probably just keep Matoma starting. I probably wouldn't take the hit, but that's close. Why not McAllister? We've spoken about the Brighton assets to absolute death. If I can just show you this if you want. Yeah, I think there's not a lot between them, to be honest. There's not a lot between them. Lineups in 11 minutes. I don't really care. I've not got any City. Well, I've got Haaland, but I don't really care. But yes, we can look at that stuff together for sure. Yeah, there's no news yet, but apparently let me just check. Apparently League Lineups has... what is Team News and Ticks, isn't he, on Twitter? What team news do we want on Man City and Newcastle? I assume it's around Mahrez, right? We know Haaland will be starting. Okay, so it's going to be on his Instagram. So I'll check his Instagram out when that happens. Sorry, 2 seconds. I'm just sorting a couple of things out. Right. I wonder if the website's going to start to struggle. Oh, there's my camera. It took its time today, didn't it? Jesus. I wonder if the server's going to start struggling soon. You talk too much. Thank you. I appreciate that. Is Navas and Raya a good option? Yeah, I don't mind Navas at all. I think he's an absolutely fine keeper. I've got nothing really bad to say about him. I just prefer Kepa slightly. Is 7 million in the bank too much? No. Have as much money in the bank as you want. If you're happy with your team, you're happy with your team. Yeah, the camera finally went. I'm just resetting the camera. For anyone that's new, I'm just resetting it and then it'll be back in 2 seconds. Haaland or Kane if I want to keep Tony and Watkins? Still probably Haaland for me. Can you run through your plans for blank GameWeek 28, please? I can in a bit. Yep, it's pretty much just going to be to sell Haaland for Watkins, probably. Can you check for some team leaks? We're going to get team leaks in 8 minutes on Team News and Tick's Instagram. How much do you have in the bank? With this team, I have only 2.1 in the bank if I do it like this. Obviously, if I have March instead of Maddison, then it becomes cheaper to do. Trippier or Tarkowski? Yeah, I've seen a lot of people chat. If you've got that choice, because I know a lot of people have, who would you start this week, Trippier or Tarkowski? I still think I would back the fixture and start Tarkowski because he's actually got decent attacking data as well, but Trippier does have an attacking return in him. But I would be very shocked if Newcastle keep a clean sheet. I have the same team as you, but only 0.2 in the bank. Is this worth it? We'll just look at what transfers you want to make in the future and if it blocks you from doing them. What's your reason for Maddison and Martinelli? I just feel like they've got high upside. They're quite attacking players that have a goal in them. I'm probably going to regret not going for Ødegaard and March in those spots. I don't know if I'm making any final changes yet. I've not yet fully decided. City team news will be out at 10:45. So stick in the stream, stay in the stream. At 10:45, we will have City team news. I think it's only going to be around Haaland and Mahrez, though. I don't think we're going to get news around their defence, probably. Basically, I think Team News and Ticks, or a leaked lineup, he basically gets... Sorry, I'm just trying to set my camera. He basically gets told to only leak a certain amount of players, I think, by the person that gives him the team. So every single time, he only gives us 2 or 3 players. He very, very, very rarely gives us the entire 11. Martinelli captain? No, I think I prefer Saka captain just for the penalties. Isn't Maddison injured? No, Maddison was ill, which kept him out of the last game, but he has been pictured in training. I actually think I've got the... There he is. The green screen's going to ruin it. There's the boy. Pictured in training. Why'd you go for Henry? He's cheap, reliable, decent expected data. Why did you go for Henry over Pinnacle? I assume that's the typo, going from Pinnacle to Pinnacle. I think he's slightly more nailed, but there's not a lot between them. Chat, I really don't know what to do with these positions. I could end up with any of Maddison, Martinelli, Ødegaard, March, and Matoma. Any of those 5 could end up starting for me, and I don't know. Here's my opinion on this. I think that March and Erdegaard are the safe picks, right? They're very nailed. They've got decent underlying data, and they're very creative, and they've got okay goal threat. Like they're very much, they'll tick along and they'll get you quite a few returns. I just feel like Maddison and Martinelli have that goal threat edge. They just have that little bit extra. If you were to tell me that someone was going to score out of those players, Maddison and Martinelli would be top of my list. So, yes. Start March or Rashford. I would think I would start March. Start Rashford, sorry. What's the plan for game week 27? I can show you my plan at the moment for future weeks. The plan would be to do Martinelli to March. So just one transfer, Marseille to March. If I pick up an injury of some kind, then I'll have to think about that. But like I said, at the moment, my bench is Zinchenko, Maddison, Botman. If Maddison picks up an injury, which is a possibility with Maddison, then I would just simply keep Martinelli and I would do Maddison to March. So one of Maddison or Martinelli would make way for March next week. That would give me the 6 doublers. In game week 28, I would then do Haaland to Watkins. That would give me 10 single game week players and only one player blanking. And then in 29, it would be a -4 hit to bring in Luke Shaw and Fernandes for Zinchenko and Saka. So I would be left with 14 double game week players, and my bench boost would have 7 fixtures. The only single game week player would be Harry Kane. That's the rough plan at the moment. So Maddison gets me an extra fixture in 29. He's good for 28 as well. And I like him for 26, assuming that he starts. I'm just going to see if we've got any news around Maddison. Sam Martin said he might have news around Maddison. Yeah, so Sam said, let me get Sam's Twitter up. The only person that I would trust for early team news is Sam Martin. For Leicester anyway. And he's just said he doesn't know anything. Oh, sorry. He doesn't know anything definitive, unfortunately, so can't tell you for sure. I expect Maddison to start today. If there is anything in the next hour, I'll update you accordingly. So, don't have confirmation, sadly. Oh, we just hit 90,000 followers. That's fun. Thank you for 90,000 followers. I was going to ask you to follow me so that we hit 90,000. You can still follow me, though. Here's my Twitter, quickly. What's the website called for future game weeks? It's called FPL.team. FPL.team. Nice and simple. You can see how your team looks for future weeks. It's very, very useful site. If we hit 100,000 by 11 a.m, Ross will do a shirtless stream. I will rip my top off right now. If we hit 100,000 Twitter followers, the top's coming off. Hi, Ross. Who is the best defender in your opinion for this week? Probably Zinchenko or Gabriel, I would say. Are you willing to take the risk for Maddison? Why not? My rank's already been absolutely battered. Look at my rank. It's not bad by all means. Like let me be clear. It's a good rank, but it's been battered in recent weeks. Might as well just go further. Might as well just drop out of the top 100k altogether. Right. Early team news. I'll get on my phone. I'm not logged into Instagram on my... Why? I kind of get it. It's like a bit of fun, but I just don't, just tweak the team. Mahrez isn't starting, is the news. There you go. The early team news is that Mahrez isn't starting from leaked lineups on Instagram. Watkins or Tony? I prefer Tony just for the double game week next week. What are your future transfer plans? I've been through that like 40 times on this live stream. I literally went through it like 5 minutes ago. So he's trolling, mate. Yeah, he's not trolling about the news, but he trolls in the way that he delivers it. Absolutely. I wouldn't necessarily advise anyone to get Maddison. Maddison isn't a pick. Like Martinelli, Erdegaard, Matoma, March. These are players that I would definitely advise you bringing in. They are good players. Maddison is a good option, but there are lots of issues associated with Maddison. He's very, very injury prone. He's been ill. We don't know if he's going to start. And it is away against Southampton rather than at home. So there are tons of reasons to not want to pick him. It's my little fun pick in there. Maddison and Martinelli are the two spots where I'm just having a bit of fun with it. Like having March and Erdegaard in those two spots makes a lot more sense. So if you're trying to build the best team, I would put Erdegaard and March probably in those two spots. But I just want to pick Maddison. I like Maddison as an option. Apparently Foden doesn't start either, is the other news. So no Foden, no Mahrez, which means Grealish will be starting. Maybe Alvarez, or it might be Bernardo Silva on the right. I need to take a screenshot of my team for Twitter. That's a good point. Matoma or March? I think that long-term March is the slightly better option, but this week, if you have to start one, I would start Matoma just because, obviously, Solly March has been an injury doubt, so there's a chance he plays limited minutes. But I think longer term, March is the one to own. His data's just really good. If you are enjoying today's stream, before you all leave after the deadline, please do make sure to subscribe. Like I said, we are on the road to 65,000 subscribers, and I would massively appreciate anyone that could subscribe. It really does help me out. And also, post-deadline, by the way, we're going to be talking about F1 and F1 Fantasy. That's not the only thing we're talking about, but there will be an F1 and F1 Fantasy sort of discussion. So if you're into F1 and you're going to be watching the Bahrain Grand Prix, then stick around post-deadline. How much do you have in the bank? This has 2.1 in the bank. And then when I do Martinelli to March next week, or Maddison to March, it would give me a little bit more money in the bank again. I think this is the only... I think this is the final team. I think. I don't know. I also think I don't want to book in a transfer next week. If I do this, it's going to force my hand to do a -4 at some point, right? So my question, Matoma, right, who scores more points? Matoma plus 4 points this week or Martinelli? Basically, do I think Martinelli will outscore Matoma by more than 4 points? Chat, what's the answer to that? What is the answer to that? Will Martinelli outscore Matoma by more than 4 points? Oh, apparently Foden starts now. I got told that Foden doesn't start, but... Right, quick poll. Quick fire poll. Quick poll. Martinelli plus... or Martinelli or Matoma plus 4 points. I'm going to let you decide. I'm literally going to let the chat decide. Whatever you vote, I'm going to do that. It's going to be a 50-50 poll. Let the Will decide. Quick. Will, help me. Martinelli. Matoma plus 4 points. Interesting. Interesting. We have got 8 minutes until the deadline, by the way, and I think there's probably a good chance that if the site is going to crash, today's the day with lots of people wildcarding. So don't do what I'm doing. Get your teams locked in. 59% saying Martinelli, 41% Matoma plus 4 points. Why plus 4 points? Because if I don't go for Martinelli, I would go for March, which saves me a transfer long term because I don't have to bring in March. So I wouldn't lose 4 points this week, but in the future, it's going to cost me a transfer, which will become a hit. So in game week 29, I would have to take a hit if I go for Martinelli now. Does Haaland start? I don't know. I've not seen anything. I can't see Haaland not starting, personally. But if you're unsure, just make sure that you captain Saka. I might bottle the Martinelli pick. Oh, I don't know what I'm doing. Chat, help me. Matoma or Maddison. Not Matoma or Maddison at all. Matoma or Martinelli for this week. Obviously, like I said, Matoma is plus 4 points. I'm just going to take a screenshot of both because I don't know which one I'm going to actually go with. And I'm going to run out of time to screenshot. Or I just sell Maddison. But I don't want to sell Maddison. I don't know, chat. I don't know what I'm doing anymore. Get Maddison in 29. It's too early now. Everyone's telling me to get rid of Maddison. That makes me want to keep Maddison. I'll be honest. You all telling me to get rid of Maddison makes me want to keep Maddison. I don't listen to chat. Chat, you can't tell me what to do. Oh, good Lord. I'm not going. This isn't going well at all. Oh, I don't know what I want. That's the aggressive play. I'm going to go aggressive. That's the aggressive play. Maddison and Martinelli. I feel like they've got the highest upside this week. And I'll bring in March next week. I love that everyone has been complaining that everyone's team looks the same. There have been so many complaints from so many people that our teams are all identical and content creators copy each other. I pick one slightly different player in Maddison and my entire live stream chat is just like, don't pick Maddison. Is the only player in the entire 11 that's even remotely different. So I'm going to keep Maddison. Maddison isn't leaving the team. But it's nice to see that everyone wants me to just go full-blown template. I'll make sure the team's locked in. Give it a little refresh. Yeah, so make sure as well you've activated your wildcard. I was supposed to say it before. Go in now, below your team, make sure that you've activated your wildcard, because some people just forget to activate it. So it should say like wildcard active below your team. If I just, if I scroll down slightly, you can see it says wildcard active, right? My wildcard is definitely active. Just make sure that you've done that. So many people forget, and that'll ruin your season. If you've taken like, if you've made like 30, 40 transfers, well, you can't make that many, but like 20 odd transfers. I think Luke Shaw will be fit to play this week, but I don't know that for certain. Matoma or March? I think that this week, Matoma, but longer term, maybe March. But yeah, Matoma, just because we know he's fit, whereas March was a slight doubt, wasn't he? Maddison or March? The sensible decision is Maddison. The sensible decision is March, but I'm going for Maddison. I might start Matoma over Haaland. I wouldn't do that, but good luck. It could work out for you. You've got 2 minutes until the deadline, by the way. 2 minutes. Make sure to get those teams locked in. And don't leave. We stream post-deadline as well. After the deadline, there's other FPL talk. We'll talk about F1, different stuff. So don't leave after the deadline. How do you have so much money in the bank? Just got decent team value. Ake or Trent? That's a strange one. Trent. Mings or Castagna? I'd start Castagna this week. You got just over 1 minute until the deadline. Get those teams locked in. Get them locked in. I kind of regret my team already. I'm not going to lie. I regret everything about it. But we'll see how it goes. This team has 2.1 million in the bank. For everyone that's asking. 2.1 in the bank. Why is Kane not a captaincy option? I think he is. I just prefer Saka and Haaland personally. Who should I start, McAllister or March? I prefer Solly March, although he's a bit of an injury doubt and McAllister's on penalties. So maybe McAllister this week, but longer term I prefer March. Foden or Maddison just for this week? I would probably go Maddison myself. Better fixture. God, I've never received such negative feedback for a pick than I have with Maddison. Wow. Hopefully it works out. That is the deadline. We are done. That is it. Locked in. Like I said, don't leave though, because there will be some post-deadline chat. And it's the best part of the stream. Ask anyone. It's the best part of the stream. So stick around. I just took a -32 by accident. I forgot the wild card. I just told you not to do that. That sucks, Max. I do apologize. Right, we are locked in. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are leaving now, which you shouldn't, make sure to subscribe on the way out, please. So just as you leave, before you click off, hit that subscribe button. But for those of you that are sticking around, best part of the stream, I'm just going to really quickly tweet my team and get abused on Twitter as well for picking Maddison, which is nice. Which one did I end up going for? I went for this, didn't I? Top off, top off, top off. FPL just crashed. I don't think FPL crashed. I think it's just the deadline. Yeah, we are going to discuss F1 in 2 seconds. I've been doing so much research for F1. I watched all of the practice. I'm really getting into F1. So we're going to talk about F1 in a sec. But that won't be all we're talking about, by the way. If you're not interested in F1, don't stress. That won't be the only topic of this conversation. Sorry, I know it's rude to be on your phone. I know we're having an intimate moment here and I'm sat on my phone. I'll be quick. Switch Botman to Pinnock last minute. Yikes. I don't hate that. Gets you another double game week player. Pinnock's got a bit of goal threat as well. I don't hate Pinnock as an option. Only here for the post-deadline chat. That's what I like to hear. Well, no, I'd like you to be here for the entirety, but I like the fact that you enjoy the post-deadline chat. Right, let me just, as always, 90,000 followers is a lot of followers. That's quite wild. Let me, what am I doing? What am I doing, chat? You tell me, chat. What's going on with Ross at the moment? I'm refreshing that. That's me. And then I'm copying. I swear I just pinned this tweet. Yeah, I did. I don't know what's going on. Then you are gonna go like this tweet to make me feel popular. Go follow me over on Twitter, please. it's not an order. And go like the tweet to make me feel popular. Ross, what super chat donation to get your kit off? I'm not going to do that. Imagine £1,000 and I'll take my top off. No, don't give me your money. I feel a bit like a stripper if you tell me to a certain amount of money will get my kit off. Right, let me get F1 Fantasy up. I don't know how much time we want to spend talking about F1 Fantasy, but I also don't know. It's probably not all going to fit on my screen. Let me have a quick look at this, actually. I'm going to go onto Twitter. If I drag that across, how much of that can you see? Yeah, so you can't see enough of that. What do I want to do here? I want to... It's just a bit of an awkward sizing, isn't it? Do you know what? I'm going to do it. Let's have a bit of just a rearrange. You should just be able to see that then. Those are the three teams. Let me get quickly, let me get my league code. We've almost got 1,000 teams. Okay, we're going to get 1,000 teams in this. This is F1 Fantasy. We won't talk about it for too long if you're not into F1, don't worry. Right, where's the chat? That's the link to join the F1 league. Everybody has a price. I'll put a $5 towards it. Okay, imagine starting a GoFundMe page for Raptor getting topless, £1,000. No, please don't. There's no, it's not going to happen. What amount to crack an egg on your head? I should have like a list of possible things that I could do. Take my top off, crack an egg on my head, rub oil on my head, which some people seem to want me to do. So, these are my three teams. All three of them doing slightly different things. You can see all three of them have Fernando Alonso. All three of them have Aston Martin because just at the pricing, it makes a lot of sense. Then I've got Ferrari and Red Bull as the constructors across the two. And then I've just got a combination. Like the first two obviously have Max Verstappen because he's very likely to finish P1. Maybe not in qualifying. I think Max could finish P3 in qualifying, but I think he will finish P1 in the race. And then I've got Leclerc in 2 and Sainz in 1. And I've also got Perez in 2 of them as well. And then there's just a combination. I think Alfa Romeo will do really well this year, which is why I've got Bottas and Zhou in there. Zhou Guanyu. I think they're two really nice picks. And then Hülkenberg is in 2 just because he's really cheap. And Hülkenberg actually looks like he's got a better grasp on that car at the moment than Magnussen, which is interesting. At what point do you stop washing your face and start washing your head? I don't. I just get shower gel and just wash everything. I guess would be my answer. Last time I watched F1, Vettel won every race. Well, Vettel's not winning any races this year. That's for sure. Just having a look at, we can have a look at some of the teams that are over on Twitter. Someone just said that Andy has Salah in his draft. There's no way that Andy has Salah in his wildcard team. Let me bring up his stream. No, he doesn't have Salah. He's got Kane and Erdegaard. Oh, it was a joke. He was joking. He has Kane and Erdegaard. I was going to say, there's no way he's dropped Kane and put Watkins in, and there's no way he's still got Salah. I think most people's teams will be very, very similar. They'll be very similar. What are these F1 stuff, Ross? First time I'm seeing those, and I'm really interested to know. This is F1 Fantasy. So, yeah, F1. Obviously, the Bahrain Grand Prix is the first day. Deadline is at 3 today. I'm not going to go through all of the rules because this isn't an F1 channel, and I'm not an expert. It's my first time playing F1 Fantasy. But essentially, if I go to the rules, you get points for... So qualifying, you get points based on where they finish. So if someone finishes pole in qualifying, that's great. If you want my prediction on who is going to finish P1 in qualifying, I would say it's probably Alonso or Leclerc. I don't think Max will finish P1 in qualifying. He probably will, to be fair. I don't think he will, though. And then you also get negative points, though. So if someone gets disqualified in qualifying or they don't set a time, then in qualifying, you actually get negative points if neither driver reaches Q2. And you obviously get points if both drivers reach Q3. And then obviously for the actual race itself, you get points too. So first place, it's basically the same amount of points that they get in the actual Drivers' Championship. And then for constructors, they have points around fastest pit stop, second fastest pit stop, stuff like that. Aston Martin look very quick at the moment. So Aston Martin, again, are a good constructor to have because their pit stops have looked quite good. So there's points for basically qualifying and for the race. So you need to lock in your teams before, I think it's 3 p.m. today, before the qualifying. Have we hit 1,000 teams? Yes, we've hit 1,000 teams. That's pretty cool, considering this isn't an F1 channel. 1,000 teams in the league. Nice. Are you watching any TV shows at the moment, Ross? No, I'm not. I'm really not. I've just subscribed because I heard you were going to take your top off. Is that true? Maybe one day. Potentially not today, though. Team 1, 100% Raptor. Yeah, Team 1 and Team 2 are my favoured two. They've both got Verstappen. They've both got Aston Martin and Red Bull. And they've got a combination of good other drivers. One has Leclerc, one has Perez. I like Team 3, though, because Team 3 is putting all of my eggs in the Ferrari basket and thinking actually Ferrari could win the Constructors' Championship. And actually Leclerc and Sainz could maybe do quite well in qualifying. The only issue is I don't have Verstappen in the third one. So if Verstappen dominates, then I'm going to regret it. The only thing to note on all three of these teams is I'm not very keen on Mercedes. A couple of people saying that Mercedes are still sandbagging. I don't think so. I think Mercedes just look a little bit off it. But obviously, it's always a risk going without Hamilton. So we'll see. We shall see. Oh, my voice went, we shall see. How much did Alonso get as a raise to leave Alpine? Apparently a lot. Someone said close to double he got for going to Aston Martin. But then the car just looks better. Maybe he knew something that Aston Martin were going to upgrade the car. Only one team counts towards your global rank, in case you didn't know. Yeah, it's Team 1, isn't it? I believe. No, I think... Oh, actually, you've got Team 1, Team 2, Team 3 here. You've got your 3 teams rank on the right-hand side. So I think all teams count towards your global rank. I just don't have any faith in Mercedes at the moment. I really don't. Never heard of any of these dudes. Yeah, sorry, I won't talk about F1 for the entirety. I'll stop talking about it in a few minutes. What's the link for the league? Oh, there you go. Martinelli or Verstappen? Martinelli. I'm not a massive Max Verstappen fan. I don't hate Max in the same way that some people do. I'll be honest, I don't particularly love Hamilton or Verstappen. I much prefer Charles Leclerc and Sainz. If I had to choose a team, it would be Ferrari. But I don't necessarily support a team. I like Leclerc. I like Sainz. I like Magnussen, Bottas. Then I probably don't really have a fifth. I like Hulkenberg. He's okay. I like Zhou Guanyu as well. I think he's really cool. I don't mind Alonso. I don't mind Checo as well. I think Checo's quite cool. But yeah, for me, it would be Charles Leclerc, Sainz, Magnussen, and Bottas would be my top four. Oh, Lando. Fifth, Lando. I love Lando. Don't know why Lando slipped my mind. I was looking at the drivers on my screen. Yeah, I love Lando Norris as well. Lando would be fifth. Who are the Arsenal equivalent in F1? I would say the Arsenal equivalent in F1 are Ferrari. Probably. Yeah, I actually don't mind Gasly and Ocon as well. I quite like both Alpine drivers. I don't mind Gasly or Ocon. Who do you guys think will come out on top this year? Let me get my predictions tweet up, actually. This is going to be really all over the place now, isn't it? Why did I click that? Oh, actually, it actually fits fine. Cool. Where was my... Why can't I find this tweet? I tweet so much. Oh my God, chat. Where on earth? I think it was actually a few days ago, wasn't it? It was probably further down. Here we go. Let me zoom in a little bit. Oh. I'll answer some non-F1 questions at the same time whilst... I would love to know your opinion on these. Drivers' Champion, Constructors' Champion, Surprise Star, Biggest Disappointment, Ocon versus Gasly, Hamilton versus Russell, because some people are saying Russell's going to be quicker, Leclerc versus Sainz, and then some sort of bold prediction. I would like to know what you think there. F1 Raptor. Shall I start an F1 channel? What's the F1 league code? Yeah, I can send it again. I sent it a few times in the chat. There you go. I'll show you my predictions in a second as well. My predictions are just underneath. Russell will be Mercedes' new poster boy. Yeah, they might start to favour Russell, especially if it looks like Hamilton. I've seen a few people saying Hamilton might join Ferrari. Or Hamilton might at least leave. Imagine Hamilton at Red Bull with Verstappen. It wouldn't happen, but that would be something. Take away lucky safety cars and testing awful setups. Lewis was comfortably ahead of Russell. I expect him to be 3/10 up most of the year. I would agree with that. What did people say about my team, by the way? Whilst you guys are giving me your predictions there. Okay, people are generally quite supportive. That's good. Because my chat was not happy at all with me picking Madison. Wet weather, probably Max and Russell. It's not. Is it raining in Bahrain? Or are you just saying, is this just a general discussion? No, it's not going to be raining in Bahrain. I guess that's just a general discussion around wet weather. When does practice? When does FP3 start? Is it 11:30? FP3 will be on soon. I was going to say it doesn't rain in Bahrain, but there we go. Bahrain. Just realised. Right, feel free to ask non-F1 questions as well. I don't want to just completely take this up with F1 for people that want to stick around but don't watch F1. Yeah, FP3 is at 11:30. Cool. Max is a beast in the rain. Lewis is also very good there. Signs as well. Yeah, Signs is excellent. Isn't Ocon quite good in the rain too? Can your minuses cancel if you wildcard after the hits you take? Yeah. So if you take like a minus 24, as long as you wildcard in that same week that you take the hit, then it cancels out the hits. Stroll might not race. Yeah, I did see that. If anyone didn't see in practice, when Stroll was turning, he couldn't have his hand in the wheel. So he had to take his hand off of the wheel. Sorry, I just smacked my mic. And he was like pushing the wheel. I'm using that word again. Wheel. So Lance is struggling with his left hand. So we might not even see Lance race, which I don't think would be a massive issue. How's the dating game going? Thank you for asking, Chris. It's not really going because I just can't be bothered. It's really bad. I just don't have the energy or desire to go on first dates and do small talk, and I'm such a busy man. So at the moment, there is no dating going on, but that's mainly through choice, not through just not finding anyone. Bahrain means the 2 C's in Arabic. That is pretty cool. Yeah, Ocon is good in the rain. Cool. Thought so. Oscar Piastri, some talent. A shame he's with McLaren. Yes, Lando actually got a little bit out of that McLaren, though, in FP2. So I'm interested to see in FP3 today how Lando does. I've seen some people say that they think Piastri will finish ahead of Lando, but I can't see it. Why did you choose Martinelli over Odegaard? I don't even know. Slightly higher goal threat. They've got very similar data, but Martinelli's got the greater goal threat. Did you watch all of Free Practice? I only caught a little bit of Free Practice 1. I watched the entirety of Free Practice 2. And obviously Free Practice 3 is in 10 minutes. When you pronounce Bahrain, you should pronounce the H. It's not like Brighton. Bahrain. Bahrain? Bahrain? Is that it? Bahrain? I just call it Bahrain. Apologies if I'm mispronouncing that. I would like it if Felipe did race this week. I would like it as well. But no one likes Lance Stroll, bless him. Have you ever removed your cap on stream? Yeah, I always... I've got loads of video. Like every other video, I've got my head out. I don't know why people think I like hide it. I love your Madders pick and No Double Brighton. I really like your punts. That's why you're my favourite content creator. Thank you. I appreciate that. Picked Matoma over Rashford this week for some gains. Stress levels are really high now. Good luck. Well, not good luck because I'm a Man United fan, but good luck. What is the format of F1? I don't know anything about it. So on a Friday, there's free practice. Saturday is qualifying, and then Sunday is the race. So Friday, they test the cars, find out what they need to change. Saturday, they qualify, and then where they qualify determines where they start at the race. So, yeah, Friday. You don't need to watch Friday or Saturday, really. You can just rock up on a Sunday and watch the Grand Prix. But I think it's interesting to watch qualifying. Sometimes they have sprint races. Yep, sprint races as well. Won't go into all of that now. But yeah, sprint race is another form of qualifying. It also changes for the F1 Fantasy. Sprint races, the points for F1 Fantasy is different for sprint races as well. Most exciting Grand Prix? I've heard a few predictions that they think it will be Texas. Austin. So I don't know. I like Spa. I think Spa's interesting just because there's chaos normally. Silverstone's always great as well. I do think that Lance is overjudged, yes. I don't think he's a bad driver, but he doesn't... I don't think he deserves to be in the seat that he's in at the moment, personally. I think there are probably better drivers than him. That isn't to say that he isn't one of the better F1 drivers in the world, or one of the best race car drivers in the world, but he wouldn't be where he is without his dad, obviously. So, can you still do F1 fantasy since qualifiers haven't been yet, or no? Yeah, the deadline's in 3 hours. You've got 3 hours. And the deadline is when qualifying starts. When will we be able to view the next game week on FPL? It's usually about 45 minutes, 50 minutes after the deadline. Monza, yeah, Monza's always a good race. Is there an app? Is there an app for F1 Fantasy? I don't think so. I actually don't know, but I don't think so. I feel bad for Joe Guanyu. They cancelled his home race again. Yeah, that is sad. He'll get it at some point, hopefully. How many points do you think your FPL team will score this week? I think my FPL team will score 67 points this week. Liverpool United prediction. I think we'll win 2-1. Would Checo be in Red Bull without his Mexican sponsor? I don't think a lot of drivers would be where they are without sponsors, so maybe no. Who wins this race? Scooby-Doo's Mystery Machine versus the Mario Kart. Scooby-Doo all the way. Sorry I'm late, but wondering what made you choose Matoma over March and McAllister. Matoma's already had a price rise, so I had a little bit of money locked up in him. I'll be bringing in probably Solly March next week, but I'll have the choice. If McAllister looks really, really good in that number 10 role, then maybe I'll go for McAllister. It gives me another week to decide on McAllister versus March. Will be interesting to see how many people wildcarded in the EOs. I agree. I'm very interested to see. What are you doing tomorrow, F1 or Man United? I think I can do both. Isn't the Grand Prix before Man United? I know there might be a bit of overlap. Do you regret booking in a transfer? I'll regret booking in a transfer if Martinelli flops. I need Martinelli to go big. So, yes, I will, but let's see. Let's see what Martinelli does. Have people seen Super Nintendo Land? They have one opening in Florida in a few years. I haven't. I'll have a look at that. Grand Prix is at 2 p.m, Ross. Is it? I thought it was at 3. Where's the... The race is at 3. 3 till 5. And then the Man United game starts at 4:30, doesn't it? So there'll be a bit of overlap. It is a 4 o'clock, 4:30 game, isn't it, Man United Liverpool? Is it the early game? One sec. Yeah. So there'll be a bit of overlap, but it should be fine. If Lance Stroll was fine and he didn't have the injury, I probably would have Lance Stroll in one of the teams just because the Aston Martin car looks so fast. But with the injury and also him not being great, that's why I haven't got Lance in any of these teams. There you go. Two people asked for the F1 League code, so there you go. Maddison and Martinelli getting 35 combined points this game week. Don't worry. I would cry with happiness. If Maddison goes big, I'd be so happy. Like, if I could choose one player in my team to go absolutely massive, it's Maddison. Because he's going to be my biggest differential as well. Potentially some reassurance for the Maddison pick. Southampton have comfortably the worst home record of the season. Meanwhile, Leicester are much better away than at home. Interesting. Thank you for some confirmation bias there. I'm going to look at my team again after FP3. Yeah, oh, absolutely. I'll be making changes after free practice. You were spot on last week when you predicted a 4-2 Arsenal win. Did I? Don't even remember that. Great. Who the hell is going to watch Vroom Vrooms over King Rashford? Oh, yeah. Obviously, Man United come first. Obviously. If Maddison and Martinelli go big, can we get an end of game week stream? If Maddison and Martinelli both get above 15 points, I'll do a stream on Sunday. Who's winning the league? Arsenal, probably. I think they've got the right players coming back at the right time. Let's see what happens with City, but they've got Jesus coming back at the perfect time for them. Did I miss the top rip-off scene? Yeah, I ripped off my top as soon as the deadline ended, but it's back on now. Oh, I would love Manchester United to win the league, but I'm a realistic fan. I think we're a little bit off of City and Arsenal still. We're in a very good run of form right now. I don't know that we'll be able to keep that up. Are you going to do a watch-along for the race on Sunday? I don't think I'm going to do F1 content. I would love to do F1 content. Two things. Number one, my knowledge of F1 is amateur. I'm not ever claiming to be great at F1. And also, I would have to create a second channel and it would be a lot of extra work. I wouldn't want to talk about F1 too much on this channel because I don't want to ruin this channel's going so well. I don't want to do anything to ruin that. So, yeah. How much do you bench squat? My bench PB is 95 kilos. I've never hit 100, which is like 220 pounds. And then my squat PB is 140 kilos. I don't know what that is in pounds. What is that, over 300 pounds? 300 something pounds? I hope you get to experience an F1 race live someday. Absolutely. I'm going to try and get a sponsor that will pay for me to go and watch an F1 race. That's the dream. That's the dream. How would more videos about F1 ruin the channel? So basically for YouTube, they recommend that you're very niche and that you don't diversify your channel. So let's say that I've got 64,000 subscribers at the moment. Those 64,000 people have all subscribed for fantasy, for FPL. If they then start seeing F1 content, they might unsubscribe. Also, because not everyone will be clicking the F1 videos, the algorithm then thinks that all of your videos are just getting less views. So basically the algorithm would stop pushing my stuff. Going to Monza this year. Oh, I'm so jealous. Oh, my camera's gone. That's probably a decent time to call it there then, chat, because I want to go watch FP3 and I need to eat because I'm starving. So thank you for being here. I very, very much appreciate you. I appreciate the support on my terrible picks. And hopefully it'll be a green arrow in Game Week 26. But we'll be back for Double Game Week 27, of course. There'll be plenty of content. Follow me over on Twitter for F1 content and for FPL content and all of the stuff. And yeah, I really do appreciate it. And I'll catch you in the next live stream. See you later, guys.